Hey you guys, it's Victoria. Welcome back to my kitchen. Today I am so excited to be doing this video because it's one that I've been wanting to do for quite a while, and that's because this recipe is for my favorite salad dressing that's raw vegan, completely healthy in the entire world. And I eat this probably about 3 times a week, and it just satisfies me and I love it so much. So I thought, you know, I really need to share this because if this helps me ingest, you know, mountains of greens, then I would want to tell you guys about it because getting the right salad dressings is so important when you're a raw vegan because it can make the difference between eating a salad that day and eating a lot of greens that day and not. Whenever I first started being a raw vegan, I focus so much on the fruit because that's what everyone tells us to do, you know. Fruit is so pushed in this journey, and so I ate a ton of fruit, and that's good because it really helped me detoxify, and I really needed it. I needed the fruit so bad. I needed the water, and just the high water fruits are so beneficial for the body. But after about 2 years of being a raw vegan, I started to awaken that I'm not eating enough greens, and the greens really balance you, and they bring satiation, and they bring the minerals that the body needs, you know, the hair needs, the skin needs. So that's why I love perfecting and enjoying this raw vegan recipe. And all it has in it is tomatoes, red pepper, apple cider vinegar, cayenne, raw tahini, and a little bit of dulse, and a half to a 1 of a Brazil nut. Now I'm going to give you the exact measurements as I do this, but I want to talk about the tomatoes first. So I think, in my opinion, Roma tomatoes taste the best in this recipe. I have used Roma. I have also used these type of tomatoes. They're tomatoes that are on the vine. And I have some right here, and I'm going to use these today. I also have used cherry tomatoes. It's whatever tomato I can get, you know. If they don't have organic Roma tomatoes, well, I'll get the tomatoes on the vine. If they don't have those, I will get cherry tomatoes. Pretty much any grocery store you go to that has some organic is going to have some type of an organic tomato all the time. But not always. But yeah, getting organic tomatoes is really important. So also, you need a bell pepper. Now my favorite to use is either a red or a yellow. And the yellows, and I've used orange too, that's fabulous too. It just gives a little bit of a different taste. The red is going to be your best bet, but the yellows I love too, and that's what I'm going to use today. It gives it just sort of a sweetness and sort of a different flavor, and I switch it up all the time, you know. Again, whatever color bell pepper I can get, I will get. Now, I do not recommend eating green peppers because a green pepper is just a pepper that isn't ripe yet. So they picked it really early, and that's why it's green, and we don't ever want to eat any fruit or vegetable that is not ripe and is not ready to eat because it just totally counteracts the wonderful things that we want to get from our fruits and vegetables. So I don't ever eat green peppers, and they won't be included in this recipe. So I'm going to get started, and I'm going to cut all this up. I'm going to put it in the food processor. So I like using the food processor with this recipe because it has the pulse function, and I feel like that in this particular recipe, the less blending you do, the better, the less oxidation. And I've done this before in the Vitamix, and I noticed that it tastes a little bit better in the food processor. But if you don't have a food processor, don't worry, you can absolutely do this in the Vitamix. Just don't blend it quite as long. You still want it chunky. You don't want to blend the heck out of it. Speaking of that, I don't like to blend the heck out of anything I eat because, like I said, it just puts more air and oxidation into it. And so if I'm making a smoothie or a dressing or anything, I always blend it the least amount I can, and so that it's not processed quite as much. Because yeah, you can make a smoothie and blend the absolute heck out of it, and it's real thin and there's no chunks in it, but it's just, you put more oxidation into it, and I just personally get a bad vibe from doing that. But yeah, so I'm going to cut everything up, put it in the food processor, and I will tell you the exact measurements when I'm done doing that. Okay, so I'm back, and I'm not quite done cutting everything, but now I want to talk a little bit about the greens that I'm going to eat with this salad. So as I'm cutting, I'm just going to kind of talk about that. So what I do with this, or what I used to do actually, is I would take the time to take romaine or butter leaf lettuce or green leaf lettuce or spinach even, and I would put it on a cutting board and I would cut it into really small pieces and chiffonade it almost, and then put it into a humongous bowl and then pour the dressing on top and eat it. And I realized after weeks of doing that how unnecessary that is and how much of a hassle that is. So what I started doing is simply washing off the butter leaf lettuce or whatever lettuce I'm using, green leaf lettuce, butter leaf lettuce, spinach I love, romaine, anything like that. And I wash it off and I put the dressing in a big bowl and I dip it. And it's almost like chip and dip effect. I just really enjoy that, and it has made salad so much easier, and I do that with every single dressing. I make it into like a dip. And it also, you know, I know this is all in the mind, but it also just feels really satisfying to me, and it feels like that I'm just eating something really satiating, and I just love it. So I would recommend that you guys try that with your salads in the future. Just kind of dip them. It's really fun and it's so easy, and it has cut my salad time just by a lot. So what I normally do is I do 4 Roma tomatoes or 4 on the vine tomatoes, or if I didn't have on the vine tomatoes or Roma tomatoes, I would do a whole thing of cherry tomatoes. So in this one I did 3 small Roma tomatoes and probably 10 of these cherry tomatoes. And I have cut up 2 yellow peppers, but my rule of thumb with this particular recipe is I want to fill the food processor completely up, and that creates the amount of dressing that I want. I want a lot of dressing because I eat a lot of greens. I don't want my salad dressing to be rationed. You know, I like a lot of dressing. So this looks like I'm going to need 1 more pepper, and I'm going to get a red pepper. So hold on. Look how beautiful this red pepper is. It's so magical. I'm telling you, fruits and vegetables are so colorful and so beautiful, and I think that's one of the reasons why I just resonate with them so much, and I am so thankful for them because they're so colorful. And I am someone that loves color in my life. I love colorful clothes and just everything, because I think color brings vibrancy and it brings life to a world that is sometimes dull, and it just makes everything so vibrant. And fruits and vegetables in their nature are vibrant and colorful, and they just resonate with me so much. And I know I'm kind of going on a tangent as I have red pepper seeds all over me, but I just want to say this in every single video that I make, that fruits and vegetables have changed my life. They've created so much more depth and so much more fun in my life, and it's because they've made me healthy. And when you have a healthy physical body, it creates a healthy soul, and it just makes your life so much better. You know, I can go out and do anything I want. I'm not concerned or self-conscious, or, you know, it's not that I don't have the energy, because if I was eating the SAD diet or the standard American diet like I was, and like I did for 20 years of my life, then I know for a fact, because I lived it for 20 years, that I would not have the energy and the vitality to live the life that I do right now, because it's just how it is. When you're not feeding your body life-giving foods, it brings you down a notch, and you still might be participating wonderfully in society, and you might be a wonderful person. But I just can guarantee you that if you up the intake of your fruits and vegetables, or you go full throttle and go raw vegan, your vitality, your life, everything is just going to just skyrocket with amazingness. I just put another red pepper in this, and it's not quite as full as I want. So I'm just gonna keep throwing these cherry tomatoes, and some of them still have the green on them, so I just pull that off. And my other Roma tomatoes are not ripe right now, so that's why I'm not using those. And the cherry tomatoes do give a different taste. So if you are someone who is transitioning to raw, or who is used to the dance of the neurons, as I've heard Dan McDonald quote, you know, when you eat really, really stimulating foods, like for example from fast food that are just full of chemicals and flavor enhancers and all kinds of bad things to make it taste so good. When you eat something so raw and beautiful and not full of chemicals to make it addicting and to make you keep coming back to those kinds of places, then yeah, it's gonna be, it might not taste that good to you, but that's because you have to clean your palate. You have to change how you're eating. And once you get used to these clean, beautiful foods, you can just have a snack of cherry tomatoes, or just bite into a yellow pepper, or have a snack of just pure apples, for example, and just love it. And you won't be grossed out by it, because you have to change how you're eating fully to be able to, like I said, clean the palate and make you appreciate these simple foods. And eating simply and eating clean, and I'm talking clean, you know, fruits and vegetables, a little bit of nuts and seeds, and some seaweed here and there, like I'm going to throw in this for some iodine and some more minerals. Your life is just gonna blow up with fireworks of amazingness. And like I always say, I can only speak from experience because it's happened to me. You know, my vitality right now is through the roof, and my happiness, my gratitude, everything is just so wonderful. And it's made me, for example, appreciate nature and look at these beautiful flowers. Side note, I got these flowers yesterday and the greens on them are kind of wilted. I've never had these before. They're called stock flowers, S-T-O-C-K, and they kind of smell like clove a little bit. They're really unique. And I was just telling you guys about this because before I went raw, sure, I loved flowers and nature and stuff like that, but I was not enamored by it. I was not, you know, it wasn't so magical to me. And now I can look at flowers anywhere I go. Believe me, if you know me, you know that I'm always talking about flowers, or oh, look at this, or oh, look at that, because they're just so magical. And I know that they came from Mother Nature. And nature is where you want to align yourself with. You want to always be aligned with nature. And that's why I love the raw food diet, because everything I eat comes from nature, and it just balances me out. It gives me health. It keeps my organs clean. You know, this salad is not going to dirty up your liver. It's not going to tax your system. It's not going to give you that feeling like after you eat a turkey leg and a bowl of stuffing at Thanksgiving where you need to go take a nap. You're gonna eat this, and even if you eat a lot of it and you get really full, give it 10 minutes, it'll digest super quick, and you'll be on your way living your wonderful life, doing whatever you want to do. So I just love raw foods, and I love talking about it. That's why I do these videos, because if I can inspire one person, if you're watching this right now and you're even a little bit inspired to eat more raw fruits and vegetables today than you did yesterday, then I've done my job. And it just gives me so much fulfillment. And for the rest of my life, I can safely say, and you can quote me on this too, that I will always be touting the benefits of raw fruits and vegetables to those who ask me and to those who want to know more about this. And if you're watching this video right now, then you're interested in this, and that's why I love making these YouTube videos. So back to the recipe. I'm going to add in some cayenne. Now the cayenne gives it a little kick and some spiciness. You could also put in a little bit of a jalapeno pepper. I haven't done that actually, but I know it would do the trick. And but I'm just gonna put in about 8 dashes of this. Now it depends what kind of cayenne bottle you have and how it's dispensing, but this is how much I'm using. Now I've probably built up my resistance to cayenne a little bit. If you don't like spicy things, just use less. If you don't like it spicy at all, don't use any. I like the little kick it gives, and cayenne is really beneficial for the body. So I love using that. And then I'm going to use some apple cider vinegar. And the apple cider vinegar, you guys, is full of benefits, full of enzymes, and I personally love using it. It's another thing that makes salad dressing so good to me, and it makes me eat more and more greens, because when I use the apple cider vinegar, it just kicks it up a notch, and it makes it taste so much better to me personally. But if you don't like apple cider vinegar, don't include it. This recipe is still going to be wonderful without it. And but I like to use organic Bragg's raw apple cider vinegar, just for reference. So I'm going to be using about 7 tablespoons of this. And like I said, I like a lot of it. If you don't like it as much, just don't use as much. But I use about 7, so I'm going to do that. I'm using raw tahini. I really want to make sure you get raw tahini because it's best, and it's really what I like using. Then we're going to be using some raw organic hemp seeds, some raw sprouted Brazil nuts that are organic, and some organic dulse. So why do I like using dulse in this recipe? So to me, this recipe is kind of like an infusion of so many good things. It gives me healthy fats, it gives me the dulse, and so I like using dulse for the iodine. And iodine is really essential to thyroid function, but also to many other functions in the body. So it's often thought of that iodine is just used by the thyroid. No. Iodine is used in so many functions in the body. So I make sure that I get it. I don't want to be deficient in iodine. So next I'm going to be using hemp seeds. Oh, and the dulse, I just used about half a teaspoon of dulse. So I'm going to be using one and a half about, maybe a little bit more, of hemp seeds. And I'm going to be using 1 Brazil nut. Now sometimes I use a half of Brazil nut, sometimes I use a whole one. I'm going to be using a whole one. This is what it looks like. Brazil nuts taste so good, but you want to make sure that you're only eating max 2 a day, because it's really easy to get selenium toxicity in the body. And Brazil nuts are some of the highest form of selenium in any food. So I love using a Brazil nut or eating one every other day because of the selenium content. That's another mineral that you don't want to be deficient in. In any diet, not just raw vegan, people love to pick on the raw vegan diet for mineral deficiencies, but in any diet, standard American, paleo, whatever food trip you're on, you need to make sure that you're not having any nutritional holes in it. And so eating a half of a Brazil nut gives me the selenium. You know, pumpkin seeds give me the zinc. Tahini, like I'm going to use now, I'm going to be using about 2 teaspoons, 2 tablespoons if you want a little bit more that day, or if you want it creamier. Now the tahini gives me the omega-6s, and the hemp seeds give me the omega-3 fatty acids, and it really balances out the fat ratio. So that's why I like using both of them together. And I really love getting my fatty acids, you know, not too much. You don't want to eat too much fat on any diet. And that's because it can just clog you up, slow you down. And I know a lot of people say the fat you eat is the fat you wear. And I do believe that to some extent when I'm talking about the raw food diet. But it's also, I think, how toxic you are is how fat you are, because that's pretty much all fat is. It's just built up toxins. So I think the more toxic you are, the more fat you are. But yeah, but still, you don't want to be eating a whole jar of tahini or a whole jar of nut butter a day. You know what I mean? So just try to keep the fat content low, but I still incorporate fat into my diet, and I'm not obese. And it's another stabilizer, and you know, they have really beneficial things to fat. You know, it's really good for the brain, and you just really need to make sure you're getting the fat you need, but not too much and not too little. So like with everything, a happy medium is what you want. Now I'm gonna put the lid on the food processor, and I'm just gonna pulse it. And I'm pretty much gonna pulse this just throughout the whole entire time. Okay, and then about halfway in, I'm gonna take the lid off and take my handy dandy spatula, or whatever you want to use to kind of scrape the sides and push everything down into the food processor so you mix every single bit of it and get it all in there. Then put the lid back on and we're going to pulse it some more, but not much. This is meant to be a really chunky recipe. And that's it. Okay, so I got a bowl and I'm just going to take this off and pour this into a huge bowl. Like I said, this recipe is meant to be chunky, and that's what makes it so good to me. I just love it so much. I really, really recommend that you try this because it tastes so good and so necessary to get enough greens in. And I like eating 2 heads of lettuce a day no matter what, sometimes 3. Yesterday I had 3 heads. 1 was pretty small. It was green butter leaf lettuce, which has my heart. It tastes so good. This is what the recipe looks like. I can't tip the bowl completely over or it'll fall over the floor. But I know that if you're not used to raw foods that this could look kind of not appetizing, but if you're used to raw foods then it just looks like another salad dressing. And if you know what life-giving and nutrient-dense foods are in here, then you'd be lapping it up. But like I said, you have to get used to these foods and kind of reprogram your mind and clean the palate, get the flavor enhancers and all of that out of your head and out of your body before you can really appreciate raw foods to the fullest. But yeah, so I'm gonna eat this today with a bunch of greens and I'm gonna enjoy it. It's gonna nourish my body, but it's not gonna weigh me down. After I'm done eating this, I'm gonna be on doing the next thing during my day, and that's why I love raw foods. Well, that's one reason why I love raw foods. I could talk for hours about why I love it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye!